Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Welcome back to Old Man Rambles. Um, if I've timed this right, this should go up a couple days before my wedding anniversary. So I figured I would talk about marriage a little bit. My wife and I have been together for, well, we've been married for 34 years. If you count dating and engagement before that, it's been a couple more. But we've been together a long time. No divorces. Still in the first wife. Most of our nieces and nephews are married as well. And, when they were talking about getting married and stuff, when they introduced us to their new spouses, and I would try to be funny and give some marriage advice. And I would say that, the reason our marriage works is because I put up with her bullshit and she puts up with mine, which, got a big laugh. And at the time, I sort of agreed with it, and that's not really good advice for a marriage. Not exactly. I mean, it's a good thing to understand that, you know, um, stuff happens. Everyone's different. You have to be somewhat tolerant of other people's quirks and foibles and personality traits. But that's not really a lesson for a good marriage. It's just a relation for putting up with someone else's crap. And I've been thinking about it, thinking about what makes relationships work. And I've heard many people say that, communication is key to a good long marriage. And I've heard that. It's not nothing I've ever done. I suck at communicating. My wife's not much better at it either. Um, so people say that, but it's not something I can actually speak about because it's not something I've ever done. But the one thing I can say is that you've got to put in the work. And that sounds depressing, I guess. But it's more than just putting up with someone else. Other people have needs, other people want things, other people need to be noticed and appreciated. It's about making your wife a cup of tea in the morning, you know, before she goes to work, before she starts her work day. Or on a hot as hell day like this, give her a glass of ice water. Save the hot tea for winter. Um, you know, Surprise her when she falls asleep on the couch in the afternoon. Surprise her by having dinner already cooked when she wakes up. Wipe the toilet seat once in a while. you know, Maybe sit down and watch the Hallmark Channel's Christmas in July. They're not all bad. Uh, they're very formulaic, but I mean, it's no worse than the Fast and the Furious. Those are garbage, by the way. I mean, they're fun garbage, but they're garbage. um, you know, six one, half dozen of the other. I'd like to say, you know, and this is going to sound weird, but probably the highlight of my week is when we go grocery shopping. We go to the grocery store every other week. And, we always stop and get dinner first because we've learned not to go shopping on an empty stomach. You buy way more food that way. But we stop and have dinner. We go to the grocery store. We go up and down the aisles. She has her list. I grab stuff off the shelves for her, put it in the basket. I load up. That's really the highlight of my week. It honestly is. Because it's the one time that we really spend together where we're not distracted by something else. There's no TV, there's no video games, there's no anything. It's just the two of us doing something together. And yeah, that is actually one of the highlights of one of the highlights of my week. I've said that 5 or 6 times now. Sit down with her on the couch for a few minutes. Ask her how her day was. I throw the clothes in the washing machine once in a while. When the kids were little, we took turns. She wasn't always one to get up in the middle of the night to take care of the kids. Sometimes I did it. just, you know, trying to let her know that she's appreciated. And I haven't always been the best. I spend a lot of time wrapped up in this little meat bubble here, not paying attention to what's going on around me. And there have been times when I've spent years doing that, and I've looked up and go, oh, that was not a good thing for me to do. you know, I've screwed up. I'm no perfect husband. I've made my mistakes. But I try to be better. I've been trying to be better recently. Last couple of years, I've, again, sitting in my own head, stewing on my own juices, getting mad at her for stuff, and not saying anything. But then, realizing after not saying anything for a while that, well, I'm not perfect either. I've screwed up. I've made mistakes. And I wanted to do better. There's a line from a movie that's always stuck with me. It's not like a single line. I'm going to paraphrase a bit here. The scene in the film is that it's the end of the film. This guy and this woman have been at odds with the movie. They've just gotten back together again. They broke up at the beginning. They got back together. And she saw him out at a club flirting with a younger woman. And they're in their apartment. And she asks him, well, what about her? And he says, I thought about it. But then I realized that, in 3 or 4 years, her laundry's going to be strung across the bathroom, drying and stuff. And, if there's going to be any, if anyone's laundry is going to be strung across the bathroom, I want it to be yours. And one of the reasons that stuck with me is because it's an acknowledgement that, after the sparks wear off, it's back down to the grind. You got to realize that just because something is shiny and new doesn't mean it's any better. Some carries back to something I heard Taylor Tomlinson say. It's like she and her boyfriend broke up because we were no longer having the amount of sex it took to ignore the problems that were there the whole time. It's like, if the getting's good enough, you don't notice that that he's peeing on the toilet seat or not putting the seat down, or or that he, picks his ear, you don't notice that stuff while the getting's good, It's like, yeah, so, and, those two things kind of are acknowledgement of, everyone, you get, marriage is about the relationship. It's not about the sparks that fly. You got to go up to work, get up and go to work, come home, do the dishes, do the laundry, shovel the snow, mow the lawn, pay the bills, do the taxes. You got to do this stuff with anybody. If my wife and I had ever broken up, or if we somehow break up in the future, any relationship, once the passion dies down, you're stuck with that daily grind. And, you got to put in the work, and you got to live with another person. You can't just be, as long as you can keep the sparks flying, that's great. But it all breaks down to building a life with someone else, and doing what needs to be done. And it sounds so mundane when you put it that way. All these little advertisements, way to keep the passion high and stuff. But, life's mundane. We're mundane people. I have my books and my video games. My wife has her, my wife and I are very different people. She has her tablet. She reads romance novels and World War II fiction and other stuff too. We have some similar interests, but we're also both very different people. We give each other space, and we, put up with it. And I try to do what's right and to show that I appreciate her. As mundane as that sounds, that's all I really got. But, I have been married for 34 years. which either speaks to the fact that I've either done something right or I'm just too damn stubborn to let it go. It doesn't sound good, but it is what it is. Good hunting.